Okay, so we're talking about the Mexican War. The Mexican and the ISBN number that you use as your source is right here. Okay, so it started because both America and Mexico were fighting over where the border of Texas was. Texas, as we talked about before, had become its own state. And because it wanted to become its own state, they decided to make it also then part of the United States. And so became part of the United States. And then Mexico and America disagreed over the border of Texas. Also, um, Mexicans were really frustrated when Congress voted to annex Texas. And so both nations had moved troops to the contested border region. Secretly, Polk sent a negotiator, John Slidell of Louisiana, to Mexico City to negotiate a settlement. He found that although Mexican officials they were willing to accept the making Texas part of the United States, but the Mexican public was really upset. Slidell insisted upon a boundary along the Rio Grande, and the region in dispute was 100-mile swath, so it wasn't like super big. But Slidell also pressed Mexico to sell the provinces of New Mexico and California. And Mexicans were not able or not willing to fight over that. So here is where this whole issue takes place. This is that Rio Grande border. This is the disputed territory right here in this area. And then these are all of the different places that the battles took place. So especially the stars. And the arrows show where the U.S. forces were moving towards. So the stars are like the battles. So, like I said, Slidell wanted the 100-mile disputed territory plus New Mexico and California, and the Mexican government said no. But Polk really wanted the Mexican provinces in New Mexico, California, and that 100-mile territory for themselves. So he forced the issue. The Mexican government was definitely not looking for a fight. So Polk sent Zachary Taylor, a general, to the disputed territory and just kind of wait out, basically egging on the Mexican government. So here's Taylor, and there is a song that was sung as a march off. So the Mexican army, because they were saying like get out, they said no, and they killed 11 Americans, and that was what Polk used to declare war. Abolitionists were really upset about the war because they saw it as a war to spread slavery, and so they protested against the war. They really didn't care about the Mexicans, but they definitely were upset about that slavery issue. So when war started, they had most Americans really supported the war, and they marched off singing this song, "We're on our way to Rio Grande, on our way to Rio Grande, on our way to Rio Grande. And with arms, they'll find us handy." So they get ready to start fighting. So there's 3 different ways that they're going to attack. They're going to attack in northern Mexico, province of New Mexico, and what was called California or California. The Mexicans fought valiantly and bravely in each one. The New Mexico conquest was super easy. Kearney is his name, and he just like showed up, and the governor was just basically bribed into giving up that really easily. And so then like Mexico was a little bit harder, and so is California. Some other American rebels had fought some Californios or Mexican Californians, and had definitely tried to win, and they put up this bear flag. They put up a flag with a lone star and a crude drawing of a brown bear. And the star signaled the intention of the Americans to play the Texas game, while the bear indicated their intention to secure rough justice. And so they, in the name of an empire of liberty, they imprisoned and insulted some of the Mexicans, then plundered homes and killed civilians. And then the Californios agreed the province should break with Mexico, and like the American army had come in. And so basically then there was people who were just really upset by the treatment of the So the Mexicans revolted against the Americans, and they really tried, and eventually they were overrun by the American army, but it was a real struggle, and they really fought valiantly and bravely for their rights, for against injustices. And then Americans moved to march to go help each other in Mexico. So, and Mexico was just not backing down. And the spring and summer Mexican army fought in a long series of battles, and Mexican losses were followed by rear guard guerrilla actions, harassing supply lines, and slowing progress. And Americans retaliated with terrible outrages against the civilians. So eventually they ended up taking Mexico City. They forced Santa Anna, the dictator of Mexico, to sign the treaty. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was U.S. purchased territories of California, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and southern Colorado, and a tiny part of Texas for about $25 million. And it was a super good deal. It was 602 million acres of land gained for the United States. And Mexico lost all of that territory. So all of this blue territory and the green and blue is all of the territory that was gained by the Mexican War. It was a great day for the Euro Americans who gained land that was going to be open to slavery, and it was great, rich in tons of resources, that gold, rich farmland, open areas for cattle ranching. For African Americans, it was largely affected by more territories that were open to slavery. So less places to be free, and so that was a real negative. The Mexicans were victims of property and civil rights loss and violence against them. And the original Americans were continued to be targets for violence, loss of land, and their own rights themselves. The other significant thing to know about the Mexican-American War and the Gold Rush combined leads to the Compromise of 1850, which means that a fierce debate whether to allow African-American slavery to exist in California, because our original American slavery just always existed, and newly acquired territories in the Mexican War led to the Civil War in 10 more years. So this really was a significant event that really contributed to the Civil War. And here's a picture of the Compromise of 1850. This is, quote, quote, a free state, though we know it wasn't, but it was free of African-American slavery. But the Utah and New Mexico territory, which are territories won by the Mexican War, these will become open to slavery. It says slavery determined by popular sovereignty, which is really another way of saying like the people get to decide how they went to that, and how to decide on whether to have slavery or not. And that's predictably territories where lots of slave owners are going to move into and continue to own their slaves. So it really was a great deal for them. So the main two things, again in review, about the Mexican War is this one, the impact on our country, and also the impact on the groups of people. And that is the Mexican War in short, just basically the success. We march in, we provoke a war. We march in 3 different places is where we start off. And the Mexicans fought bravely and valiantly and put up a really strong fight. But unfortunately, even though they almost won, especially in California, they were brutally suppressed eventually, and the American army overtook them. And then the treaty was signed.